This One News update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world.
Occupy Wall Street protesters in New York are licking their wounds after being roughly evicted in a surprise raid. Baton-wielding riot police broke up the occupation. Now Cameraman was close enough to the action to be arrested. Tim Wilson was with him. Tell us more, Tim.
Simon, it's a curious thing to see your workmate frog marched off to a paddy wagon for doing a good job. Hang on, you think? That's just Doug, and he's got a New York City police press pass. But after almost 2 months of occupation, tensions were running high between the protesters and the law. Occupy Wall Street, an anti-corporate tent city in a New York park, had its back broken in the early hours of the morning. Hundreds of riot police swooping in and tearing apart tents, clearing the park of around 200 protesters, some of whom had tied themselves to trees.
The First Amendment protects speech. It does not protect the use of tents and sleeping bags to take over a public space.
By mid-morning, energised by a court injunction against the eviction, the protesters come back to what they call their home. The thin blue line struggling to contain them, sometimes using maximum force.
Hours ago, they were kicked out of Zuccotti Park behind me. Now the protesters are taking the park back by force.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We have a court order. Get on, follow it.
My cameraman, Douglas Higginbotham, up on a phone booth, becomes a target for the NYPD.
Hey, come down. Come on. Come down. Come down.
They start pulling at his legs. He's worried about the camera. Then he's brought to the footpath and marched off to a collection of police vehicles. We argue with them, trying to sort things out. To no avail. He's handcuffed, taken away and charged with disorderly conduct. Later, in New York Supreme Court, a judge ruled that the protesters could not bring their tents and sleeping bags back to the park.
Their protest hasn't caught on around the world and around the country because it's a camping case. It's a speech case.
With winter approaching, the question is how the Occupy Wall Street protest campout can function now that its tents have been taken away. And Douglas was one of at least 6 journalists who are locked up, including people from the Associated Press and the New York Daily News. This has prompted some to say there was a deliberate media blackout around Zuccotti Park today. The head of the New York City Press Association, Press Club, pardon me, has called for an investigation, but there's no word yet from the NYPD on whether that'll take place.
Thank you, Tim. Live from New York, Tim Wilson.
This One News update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world.